In this video, we'll be talking about underrated albums from 1998. The series is almost coming to a close, but for this installment, I have a solo album from a grunge icon, a reunion album of sorts from two classic rock legends, a metal album that people love to hate, some Swedish progressive death metal, and some alternative rock. This episode will be very diverse. These albums will be celebrating 25 years this year. So I may also be doing full reviews in the coming year. As always, I divide the video into chapters so you can jump to the album you want to hear about. First is Boggy Depot by Jerry Cantrell. He's most known for being the guitarist and vocalist of Alice in Chains. This is his debut album released on March 31st, 1998 through Columbia Records. This album was named after a small town in Oklahoma where his father grew up. The album was produced by Jerry Cantrell and Toby Wright, who also worked with Alice in Chains, amongst other bands. The album features two other Alice in Chains members, Sean Kinney and Mike Inez. And we got Les Claypool of Primus and Rex Brown of Pantera. The three singles were the first tracks, and it's Dick I, Cut You In, and My Song. Those are all great songs. They had some moderate radio play with Cut You In being nominated for 2 Billboard Music Awards in 1998. There's some other cool deep cuts, Settling Down, has some haunting piano playing, some awesome bass sounds. That's a deep cut that really shows off Jerry's vocal abilities and kind of foreshadows the direction that Alice in Chains would go in when they would eventually do their comeback album, Black Gives Way to Blue, in 2009. Another cool deep cut is Devil by His Side, a hard rocker with some psychedelic influences. Overall, a very good album. Next is one of the closest things we ever got to a Led Zeppelin reunion, and that's Walking into Clarksdale by Jimmy Page and Robert Plant. This was released on April 21st, 1998 on Atlantic Records. This is also the last studio album recorded by Jimmy Page. After this, he did like one live album with the Black Crowes, and he did a few songs here and there on soundtracks and guest spots, but this is like his last full album. It's a blues rock album, but also has a 90s feel to it. I heard hints of grunge music, specifically bands like Pearl Jam, and lots of great songs on the album. The opening track, Shining in the Light, features some acoustic strumming. The sound reminded me of something like Led Zeppelin 3, Robert Plant. He sounds very good as always. This one has some Middle Eastern orchestral sounds and adds some variety to the sound. The second song, When the World Was Young, kind of sounds like a grunge song. Either something from like Pearl Jam or a Chris Cornell solo album. They do some slow blues rock with the song Blue Train, and then the album also has the single Most High. It's a rocker with a very 90s alternative rock sound. I really like the drums in this one. Overall, very good album from two legends of classic rock. Next is an album that people love to hate. And no pun intended, because that's one of the song titles. But I'm talking about Diabolus in Musica by Slayer. So with this album, it was released at a time when thrash bands were doing all different stuff. They were either doing grunge, industrial, or groove metal. But, Slayer, they decided to take on new metal, and they did a really decent job with it. So the metal elitists probably still hate this album, but I have heard many metalheads say that it's not that bad. So on this album, they tuned the guitars down to a C sharp. The album was released on June 9th, 1998 through American Records and produced by Rick Rubin. So when you first put on the album, you're going to notice that the first track, Bitter Peace, they're playing like notably slower, and you can tell the guitars are tuned down lower than usual. The sound quality is very good on this album. The bass guitar and the drums are just very crisp. On this song, the guitar riff comes in and it's Slayer. The song Death's Head has some cool groove metal, but still retains that core sound of Slayer. It's dark, it's heavy, it's evil sounding. My favorite song is Stain of Mind. This one has some of the best guitar riffs. The drumming is intense and very memorable. It is like Slayer, but with a Korn influence, and I also like the chromatic guitar riffs in this song. So the rest of the album is just very heavy with a great bass sound, and they slow it down at times, but it's still Slayer, so really good album. Next is Opeth, My Arms, Your Hearse. So this was the follow-up to Morning Rise. And I talked about that in my 1996 episode, but this was released on August 18, 1998 through Candlelight and Century Black Records. So on this album, there are shorter songs and more interludes, kind of as opposed to the previous two albums, which had songs that were, many songs over 10 minutes. This album has 3 instrumentals. It's like the prologue, madrigal, and epilogue. And then the 2000 reissue has a cover of Iron Maiden's Remember Tomorrow. That's a really great song. But the song that stands out for me is called Demon of the Fall. That one has those signature Opeth guitar riffs, has the harsh death growls of Michael Ackerfeld. That song is fast and heavy, but it also has some brief interludes with some cleaner guitars, as with most of the other songs in the album. The Amen Corner, that's a good song, has a darker sound, and has those stop-start guitar riffs and acoustic guitar fills. It's a song that's just very mysterious and menacing. This album is one of the darkest and heaviest, and worth a mention. Last is something completely different, Placebo, Without You I'm Nothing. It's an alternative rock album, and the band released a new album last year. I had it very high in my top 50. This one has like the alternative radio hit called Pure Morning. And if you don't remember that song, it's like that song with that beat, and it's like, a friend in need's a friend indeed. A friend with weed is better. Pure morning. That one. The album was released on October 12, 1998 through Hut Records. The album had some minor success back then. They did a music video for the title track with an appearance by David Bowie. The music video for Every You, Every Me, that one has clips from the movie Cruel Intentions. Their sound is mostly electronic rock. They include distorted guitars, lots of feedback, noise. The drums are very electronic sounding, and they can sometimes sound industrial. At times they sound like Nine Inch Nails or Stabbing Westward, but the vocals and the lyrics are just the thing that makes this band very memorable. They're not a heavy band, but if you like 90s alternative or indie rock, it's a cool band to check out. So that is all for now. This is the second to last video in this series. I'll be back next week with 1999. And if you missed any of the episodes in this series, I'm going to put a link to a playlist right here that I just made with all of the videos in the underrated albums of the 90s series. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.